Hello and welcome to another video for Midas Touch Toys Game Collectibles. And today we're looking at something that's now quite old, has become incredibly collectible and increasingly more difficult to find, especially in this mint unopened condition. We are looking at the 1995 release by Playmates from their Star Trek The Next Generation series of Space Talk action figures. And these action figures were slightly larger than the standard Playmates figures. Standard Playmates figures are about 5 inches. These particular figures are about 7 inches tall, and they have a voice box included into them with a press button on the back, which allows the voice to be heard. Now, they're all characters from the incredibly popular Star Trek The Next Generation television series, which was an American science fiction TV series. It was created by Gene Roddenberry, and it originally aired from 28th of September 1987 through to the 23rd of May 1994, spanning 178 episodes over 7 seasons. Now, it was the 3rd series in the Star Trek franchise, and it was inspired by Star Trek the original series. And it's set in the latter third of the 24th century, when Earth is a part of the United Federation of Planets, and it follows the adventures of the Starfleet Starship Enterprise, NCC 1701D, in its exploration of the Alpha Quadrant and the Beta Quadrant of the Milky Way galaxy. Now, the show spawned an all-star cast, so you had the legendary Patrick Stewart, who played Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Jonathan Frakes, who played Commander William Riker, Brent Spiner as Lieutenant Commander Data, the android, Michael Dorn as Lieutenant Worf, who was the Klingon officer, Leva Burton, who played Geordi LaForge, Marina Sirtis as Councillor Deanna Troi, Gates McFadden as Dr. Beverly Crusher, and Denise Crosby as Tasha Yar in season 1. And Will Wheaton as Wesley Crusher, who reprised his role throughout the 7 seasons. Now, incredibly popular show. It spanned for 7 seasons, as I said, and 178 episodes. Now, in its 5th season, it had reached a daily view, or an average weekly viewing figures of 12 million viewers. With the series finale in 1994 watched by over 30 million viewers. Now, because of its success, Paramount commissioned Rick Berman to create a 4th series in the Star Trek franchise, which was Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and that launched in 1993. And the characters from The Next Generation, they returned for 4 sequel movies. So we had the first one, Star Trek Generations. We had the second one, which was Star Trek First Contact, which in my opinion is the best film that they ever produced. Star Trek Insurrection, and finally Star Trek Nemesis. But not to mention, they did also return recently in the Star Trek TV series Picard, which aired from 2020 to 2023. The Next Generation crew came back together for the final season. So the final season was pretty much like a Star Trek Next Generation series. Okay, so 178 episodes, 7 seasons, and aired from September 28th, 1987 through to May 23rd, 1994, and with a budget per episode of $1.3 million. Huge budget for a TV series. Anyway, obviously the popularity of the television show spawned an awful lot of merchandise, and what we're looking at today is one of those items that was spawned, and this is the Star Trek Space Talk series of action figures. Now, like I said, these are slightly larger than the normal Playmates figures. Normal Playmates figures are about 5 inches. These particular ones are 7 inches tall. Now, each of them have a voice box in the figure, and there's a button on the back. When you press a button, it plays sounds from the TV show. Okay, so this is the card in front of us, and it says warning, choking has a small parts not for children under 3 years. Star Trek Space Talk series. Hear the character's actual voice from the Star Trek The Next Generation TV show. And this figure is of Q, the interstellar rogue. Say rogue or playmaster, let's say. And his 3 captions that he says is, "What a pity, humans," and "Bonjour, mon Capitan." It says, "Try me," button on back to hear character's actual voice, which we'll try that in a minute. Whether it's going to work or not after 30 years, I don't know yet. So it's Star Trek Next Generation, try again. "Bonjour, mon Capitan." And that's the Playmates little booklet that comes with the figure. And you've got, obviously, his accessories. And it says, action gear includes Continuum Scepter, Ceremonial Gaver, and bonus Star Trek Space Talk series booklet. And it's assortment number 6080, and this is item number 6086. And on the bottom left-hand corner, it says for ages 4 and up, and you've got the Playmates logo. Okay, let's turn the figure around to the back now, and let's see what we've got printed on the back of the card. Okay, so I turn the card around to the back, and we've got this great big Bandai sticker, which is stuck on the back of the card there. And I think that's because, well, I know it's because Bandai were the importers of the Playmates toys in the UK. They were the distributors for Playmates. So every item that came in had a Bandai sticker stuck on the back of the figures. No matter what it was, there was a band. Some of them had the Bandai logo printed on the packet, but quite a few of them didn't, and they had the stickers put on the backs of the boxes or the packets, depending on what it was that you was buying. Okay, so it says Star Trek Space Talk series, and you've got Captain Jean-Luc Picard and his catchphrase "Engage." You've got Commander William Riker and his catchphrase is "Red Alert." You've got Hugh Borg and his catchphrase is "We are the Borg." And you've got Q and his catchphrase is "Humans." It says "Try me," press button on back to hear character's actual voice, and you can see the button just inside the back there. It says 3 talking phrases: "What a pity," "Bonjour mon Capitan," and "Humans." And it's got the Q, and it says Star Trek fans, you got a proof of purchase there worth 4 Star Trek points. And it says send 2 Star Trek points with your name and address, typed or printed, for a free official Star Trek magazine with catalogue to Starpoint Star Trek Fan Club, Aurora, California. Allow 6 to 8 weeks for delivery. And it says join the official Star Trek Fan Club and get 6 bi-monthly Star Trek magazines and a membership kit with exclusive Star Trek trading cards, poster, membership card, catalogue, and more. Send check, money order, or Visa MasterCard number for $16.95 or $14.95 and 4 star points with name and address to Star Trek The Official Fan Club, P.O. Box 111000, Aurora, California 80042. Allow 6 to 8 weeks for delivery. Okay, so the alien gear that Q comes with, it comes with a Ceremonial Gaver. It's Q Continuum Scepter, and obviously you get the bonus, which includes the Space Talk Adventure Booklet. So we've got copyright information on the back, 1995 Paramount Pictures, all rights reserved. It says Star Trek and related master, trademarks of Paramount Pictures, blah, blah, blah. You've got the barcode at the bottom, which is your proof of purchase. You've got the Star Trek and the Playmates logo. It says for ages 4 and up, and it's assortment number 6080 and stock number 6086. It also tells you not to mix old and new batteries and do not mix alkaline, standard carbon, zinc, or rechargeable nickel cadmium batteries. Okay, and then we've got the bio. So this is access granted Starfleet personnel record database printout. Incident stardate 4474.1. Reported by Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Location of incidents: Sherwood Forest. Parties involved: LaForge, Data, Riker, Vash, Worf, and Picard. State of incidents closed. It says account of incident. After capture and assimilation of Captain Jean-Luc Picard into the Borg collective consciousness and his appointment as the Borg spokesman aboard the Borg ship, Starfleet massed an armada of 40 ships to meet the Borg ship at Wall 359 and stop their intended attack on Earth, with Captain Picard now calling himself Locutus of Borg, providing key strategy and guidance on the Borg ship. 39 Starfleets were destroyed and 11,000 Starfleet lives were lost. Speaking for the Borg, Picard explains that the Borg intended to improve the quality of life in the galaxy by providing other life forms the benefit of being part of the Borg collective. The Borg collective holds the idea of the individual as a meaningless and ties each Borg into a sophisticated subspace communication network. Further access denied, clearance for Starfleet level X only. Q's commands, what a pity, humans, bonjour mon capitan. Not quite sure what that Picard being assimilated has got to do with Q. Yeah, I don't know why that's giving you an incident of Picard, and I don't know why Vash is involved in that. I'm not quite sure. Maybe that's an error, a printing error on this particular packet. I do not know, but it doesn't really have much relevance to Q. Anyway, that's the back of the pack. Let's turn the figure back round to the front and let's see if we can actually get the voice activated and have a look at the figure itself. Okay, so I've turned the card back round to the front and I want to put my finger, I'm just going to show you actually, I'm going to put my finger in the back there where the voice button is. I'm going to press it and see if it actually speaks. Okay, so it is working.
Bonjour, mon capitaine.
Bonjour, mon capitaine.
What a pity.
What a pity. Humans.
Bonjour, mon capitaine. What a pity.
Okay, so it is working. It is a little bit quiet.
Bonjour, mon capitaine. What a pity.
And the humans is not quite being spoken correctly. So I think the batteries are very low, but after 30 years you could excuse the batteries for being low. So obviously they will need to be changed. They were only test batteries that went in, or demonstration batteries that went into these packs when they were first produced and laid out. So it's actually amazing that they are still working after 30 years, but they obviously will need to be replaced. Okay, before we have a good look at Q, let's get some measurements. So we're looking at about 18 centimeters, which corresponds to 7 inches. And if we measure across his widest point there, which is his hands, we're looking at about 7 centimeters. And depth-wise, again, we're looking at about 3 centimeters deep because he's got the button on the back there. You can see the button on the back through the back there. So there we are. So that is the size of Q. And let's have a zoom in on him because he does look absolutely fantastic. Now, some of the figures that were produced, they really didn't look like their characters, but these particular series, I think, are fantastic. That moulding of the face is almost absolutely spot on to John DeLance, who played Q in the television series, and incidentally he reprised the role in Star Trek Picard. So for season 3, I think, or season 2, I think it was. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, I think that likeness is absolutely fantastic. It really does look like Q. Just think it's so well done. And remember, this is 30 years old. These were produced 30 years ago. So even though the technology has moved on so much since then, I mean, the sculpting is fantastic. I mean, nowadays all the sculpting is done digitally, but back then it wasn't. So, but they really have got this one right. It's absolutely brilliant. Okay, so that is Q's face, and you can see he's dressed in Starfleet uniform, which no doubt would have enraged Captain Picard. and he's in the red command uniform as well. So there he is, and that goes all the way down to his feet, where you can see he's in his black boots, black trousers. Well, it's a jumpsuit, isn't it? So shirt and jumpsuit. So there we are. Okay, articulation wise, let's come out a little bit. So what articulation can we see on here? So let's zoom out a little bit. So we know that the head moves from side to side. We can see that the arms will go up and the elbows will move up and down. Now, there's not going to be any movement on the hands. So we're talking at 2 points of articulation on each arm. We've got the waist movement, and we've got the top of the legs and the knee joints. So again, we've got 2 articulation points on each leg. So we're looking at 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10 points of articulation, which overall is not too bad considering it's 30 years old, and the articulation on these figures, well, it's just exactly as the 5-inch figures were. So there's no extended articulation. Obviously, the good thing about these figures is they were a little bit bigger, 7 inches. So they're even bigger than the old Mego figures. By about 1 inch, and is that right? Or the Mego figures 8 inches? Actually, I think the Mego figures are 8 inches, so it's slightly smaller than the Mego figures by about 1 inch. But otherwise, spot on. I'm just going to check that. Yeah, I am right in saying that the Mego figures were 8 inches, so it is slightly smaller than the Mego figures, but overall, superb figure. I can't praise these figures highly enough. I think they were absolutely fantastic for the time, and with that voice box as well.
Jour Mon Capitan. What ability? Human.
Absolutely outstanding, I think these figures were. Okay, there you go. Say to me, okay, how well did they do back in the day? Well, you got to remember, back in 1995, Star Trek was probably the biggest sci-fi franchise in the world. The success of Star Trek The Next Generation was unparalleled. It was absolutely huge. Everybody who was anybody was into Star Trek. And obviously, because of the success, you then had Deep Space Nine, which was then followed by Voyager, which was then followed by Enterprise. So really from... really the late 80s right through, well, yeah, maybe even before that, but Star Trek was the biggest franchise. It had taken the crown from Star Wars. However, Star Wars did obviously reclaim the crown when the 3 original movies returned to the mainstream cinemas, and then Star Wars was catapulted back up into oblivion again. But at this point in 1995, Star Trek was the biggest franchise, sci-fi franchise in the world, and merchandise was everywhere. So there was all sorts of things. There was obviously action figures which were regularly being released. All different series were coming out for all of the series, and of course there was models and ships and clothing, outfits, masks, you name it. There was items available for Star Trek. Books galore, facts, books and fiction, magazines. There was even the Star Trek Weekly magazine, which was produced by the fan club. I can't think what that was called at the moment, but that was done on a weekly basis and went on for a long... Fact Files, the Star Trek Fact Files. That went on for a long time. And, I mean, there was just merchandise everywhere. There was Walkmans, there was stationery, there was pencil cases, there was... Oh, the list was endless. It was just absolutely everything because of the size of the franchise and the popularity, and the merchandise was just booming off the shelves. Now, back in 1995, we still had the shop, and I do remember we advertised these figures as coming in before they did actually arrive. So we had an awful lot of interest on these figures because we'd never had anything like this before. And when we finally got these figures, and we got these arrived on a Friday afternoon from Bandai, and we had a rotating cage which we put these figures on, and so they were all ready for opening on a Saturday morning, and come Saturday evening we were sold out. So the whole lot are gone, obviously, because we'd advertised them and told a lot of our customers they were coming in on the Friday, so it would be available on a Saturday. The shop was packed. Most of the collectors came in, and they didn't just buy one, they bought all four. So there's only 4 in the series, which is a shame. It's a shame they didn't extend the series. But we literally sold out on the day we put them up for sale. Of course, we did get more stock in. We had to wait a few weeks, but it was a continuously good selling item throughout the whole year, really, of 1995. They sold very, very well until eventually the line was dropped and discontinued, which is a shame, really. I really hoped they would have done more than just the original 4. More of the characters, maybe even some more of the aliens, maybe a Klingon one and a Romulan one would have been amazing to have alongside these, but unfortunately that never happened. But overall, as I say, absolutely fantastic. As far as I'm concerned, Playmates done superb on this range. Probably one of the best figure ranges that they produced, in my opinion. Okay, let's move forward 30 years to 2025, which is where we are today. Do these come up for sale very often on the platforms? Well, they still occasionally come up on the platforms, nowhere near as often as they used to. Go back 15 years ago, I mean, you could pick these up anywhere on the platforms. Every platform had them available, and they were all still functioning. You could buy them like this, brand spanking new, and they were, quite easy to come by, and the price was relatively low. However, nowadays, it's not quite the same. Trying to find them like this in sealed working condition is very, very difficult. You do see a few of them that do come up from time to time on the platforms, but are non-working now, so the batteries have obviously worn out. However, don't let that put you off, because they're only the very, very small cell batteries, and even when they leak, they don't really cause any problems. So you can pop them out, put a little bit of electrical cleaner in the battery terminals, give it a little bit of wipe, and they should be as good as new to go. So they don't leak loads and loads of fluid like the standard batteries do. So if they do by any chance leak, then you can still get these figures to work. It's not difficult. So don't let the fact that they're not working put you off. If you want one to open up and put in a display and talk, it doesn't really matter if they're working or not, because the batteries can be replaced. However, finding them is, as I say, is nowhere near as easy as they used to be, with all the accessories and the little booklet as well. Although you can find them loose figures, so if you just want a figure on its own with nothing else with it, and you don't care if it's been played with or displayed before, then you will be able to find them pretty much a little bit easier than trying to find them like this one in mint seal condition. For me, it's all about condition, and in my displays I like to have the figures in absolute mint condition, so I will only buy the new ones. And I know there's a lot of collectors like that, but if that's not what you're looking for, if you're happy with a used item, then you can find them a lot easier on the platforms. Whether they're working or not is another thing. And obviously, the same old thing, if you buy on a platform, do be careful. Some people's idea of very good condition could be somebody else's idea of acceptable condition. So there's a big scope of differences there on people's opinions. So just be wary of that, and also be wary that some of the platforms use stock images and stock descriptions. So you could be looking at a brand new item like this, reading the description of a brand new item, but if there's no new available, they automatically go to the cheapest used item, and that may not be what you're looking for or what you think you're ordering. It could just be a loose figure with damage to it, non-working, missing bits, who knows. So if you can't see new on the page, but it does say used, click that used link and read it, because that's what you're about to order if you press order. So do be very, very careful. Stupid system, not the fault of the seller and not the fault of the buyer. It's just the way the systems work. Ridiculous if you ask me, but there we are. Now, alternatively, you don't need to go through any of that rigmarole. You can come straight to us at Midas Touch Toys, Games and Collectibles, where what you see in front of you is exactly the item you would receive should you wish to order it. We don't believe in stock images and stock descriptions or anything like that, and you can only order the item you are actually looking at. So you can't misorder something that you don't want. Now, these particular figures, these were part of a shop buyout which we did after COVID. Now, there was a whole case of these figures that was still in the stock room that were never put onto the shelf. I suppose the hype had died down and things had moved on, probably on the Star Wars or something, so they didn't end up going on the shelves. There's a whole case of these figures that was part of that shop buyout that we have available. I think we've got 3 of each. Because there's 3 of each that came in the case. I think it was 3 of each. And as of today, all of those figures are available to purchase on the Midas Touch website, which you can get to very simply by clicking the link below. It will take you straight to the website where you'll be able to find this and many, many other vintage Star Trek items. And many other vintage toys, games and collectibles come to that. There's over 10,000 products currently available on the website for you to view and purchase at your leisure. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, because we're uploading videos for every new item that goes into the website. And there will be something for everybody. And I'm absolutely positive this is something that you're not going to want to miss, because we literally have thousands and thousands of new items which we're shooting videos for and uploading on a daily basis. So if there's something in particular you're looking for, something old that you've never been able to find, something quirky you might want to buy for a friend, or perhaps just something from your childhood that you'd like to own again to help you recuperate those long lost childhood memories, well, stay tuned, keep watching, because you never know, the next item we upload could be that item you've been looking for. Okay, that is it for me on this particular item. I do hope you've enjoyed reviewing this wonderful, wonderful vintage Star Trek Space Talk series action figure, Q action figure with me. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next video. So bye for now.